Everybody, Buddy Webb, Midland, Texas. Last day of the year, January 31st, 2020. So I'm going to do a video for you here today based on a Facebook post that I did this morning called Separation Day. That's because 9 years ago on December 30th, 2011, the ex-wife and I separated, and there was a series of events that happened there that I'm going to describe in this Facebook post and then make the video out of. This is my Facebook. It's under Buddy Wayne Webb, and the URL, you can see it up here, is buddy.web.353. And so I'm gonna just come down here and get started. I did a long write-up, Separation Day, December 30th, 2011. Copied and pasted that down into the comments, and then I'll talk about each one, with the pictures. The picture I used for this one, I'm going to show you here, which is, I think, important to this whole story, is it's from my life insurance books back in 2012. I worked for DCP Midstream. That stands for Duke ConocoPhillips. It's a major gas company, and so I had very good benefits, and I paid the extra money. And what I'm showing here, I had an accidental death policy, basic and supplemental. So basically, if I died by accident, then my beneficiaries, my family, was going to get 2 times annual base pay, around $200,000, $100,000 a year, and then a supplemental action, an extra $250,000. So altogether, about $450,000 in accidental death insurance. Okay, and that's important because the ex-wife took these books, less than a month before I was ambushed and shot when we separated. Okay, and then here is, and I'm going to show you down in the comments earlier, but it's a message from where the former boyfriend of the ex-wife, Arthur Welch, contacted me in December 18th, 2013. And no, I take that back. That's when it was entered in court on October 5th, 2012. It was submitted in court December 18th, 2013. And that Arthur Welch contacted me and said that he dated my ex-wife, while we separated, and he believes she had a lot to do with the shooting, and that she threatened to have him killed too. We're going to look at that better in a minute. So I'm going to just start. Basically, I took every one paragraph and come in with a picture, and then I'm going to talk about it. So the first one right off bat, this separation date, December 30th, 2011. Of course, today is December 31st, and so here I got 2 months, and a lot of stuff happened right there in them 2 months. I was only married 3 months total. I think I'll show you that here in a minute. But here in December, my mom dies on the 7th. That was Pearl Harbor Day. Still unanswered questions. I got a video on that called The Death of My Mom. And then there was her friend Greg called me at work and told me she was threatening suicide. I went and found her. The police were called that day, and so the ex-wife's suicide threat was here. They told her to go see her psychiatrist, which is over in Odessa. I went with her. That was somewhere, and I don't know these exact dates. I just know they were between when my mom died and when the police were called to my house on the 20th. When she called the police to my house on the 20th, it was this suicide threat and then this psychiatrist visit. And that psychiatrist visit was interesting, because that's where, he reminded her the other time she did it, which I didn't know about. It said something about that time with the bikers, I don't know what that meant, and then, and don't you remember how you felt guilty about getting your daughter involved in prostitution? And, and that was a surprise to me too. And this was all before the police were called here on the 20th. Okay. I have a police report for that. I'm not showing you here, but basically they put me in a car with a baggie of marijuana and told me that we better not be called over here again for this stuff, and I'm going to talk about that more in a minute. And then separation day, that was the night I said, I'm done. I'm finished with this. It's over. I told the police and I told her I'm getting a divorce. I was cutting my losses. Because, I got people breaking in my house here. She was pretending to be on my side, and it became clear she wasn't on my side. Okay. And so then we separated there on the 30th. A few days later, January 4th, my son and his family comes in from Amarillo, Josh. And then just that night, his granddad, Don Calloway, died there in Amarillo, and he left, and he had never been back to my home, And as you can see, here just a few weeks after that, I'm ambushed and shot and left for dead inside my home. Okay. During that time, I tear gas attic. I'm not sure the exact date, but I know it was in this area here. And that was, I've recently made a video, tear gas in my attic. This was the last time that I tear gas the attic. And I suspected that might have caused what happened on the 14th here. And that's when I put electricity. I recognized somebody was trying to come in my bedroom, and I was concerned about retribution because I'd tear gas the attic. And then I now suspect that a landman attorney named Matt Hyman grabbed my doorknob and was electrocuted in my hallway. Or better yet said, his friends saw him get electrocuted and let him die instead of calling the police or calling EMS to get help for him. Okay. And then here on the 17th, I believe another guy was shot in the same foot with a shotgun based on x-rays, based on a radiation report that a radiologist did named Dr. Hinton. He said he compared my x-rays from the 17th to the 19th, and he did his write-up. Oh, there's pellets and all this stuff or whatever, okay? Well, I was shot on the 28th, and that was 11 days after that, And so it was 2 different dates, 2 different sets of x-rays, so I believe somebody was shot on the 17th. And, and maybe somebody being shot on the 17th gave them doctors that kill for profit an idea how to kill me, right? I don't know that, but I just know these 2 dates. So I still a question who was shot in the foot on the 17th. I believe somebody was, And then right around that same time, and I'm not sure if that was the exact date on the 16th, but it was right after, it's believed Matt Hyman died, I put electricity on the doorknob, and right around the same time, the x-rays, the ex-wife comes back to my house and brings my life insurance books back. She had taken them here when we separated without me knowing it. I found out that she had them when she brought them back, okay? And so I'm going to talk about that more here in a minute. And then she also filled out divorce papers for me to file. Of course, the beneficiary and all that stuff didn't matter until the divorce was final. So if my murder was ruled an accident before it was final, she was still going to get the house and all the money and all that stuff. So divorce was filed 5 days before I'm shot. And then I had the first surgery on the 29th. That's important because the x-rays here show my heel bone missing, and then I didn't have surgery till the next day on the 29th. Okay, and that's one of the proofs that I had that my x-rays were faked at the hospital. So anyway, there just shows you them 2 months, and there was more, of course, than that. Here's my first comment. On December 20th, the ex-wife called the police to my home, and they put me in the back of a police car, which already had a baggie of marijuana laying in the seat, and warned me that the police better not be called back to my home. That was the reason I didn't try to call the police when burglar alarms were going off in my attic before I was ambushed and shot a month later on January 28, 2012. Okay, I have that police report, and it was Blake Bush and Trent Sellers that come to my home. There was like 2 police reports, and I think I'll talk a little bit more about it here in a minute. What I showed for a proof here was the emergency room nurse's notes. Okay, this is from my permanent medical records, and they're time stamped. So at 11:27, I crawled out at 10:42. Okay, so less than an hour after I crawled out, and I'm talking to Detective Rosie Rodriguez in the ER. I'd just been ambushed and shot. I'm in shock. And what's important is I'm saying, there are sirens going off. The alarms kept going off. Them were burglar alarms in my attic that were going off over and over and over again. And in the closet, there's a voice recorder recording it, okay? So I had proof at my house, and that's what I say down here. I have proof. Just go look. There's proof. Proof was a voice recorder, and that was recording the burglar alarms going off. Proved I was shot during a home invasion. And then, of course, we know now that the proof was stolen by the police. And after I made a big point of it, it gets checked into evidence a couple years later. By Matt Davis, who then quits the police department, right? 2 years later or something like that. And then final here was Rodriguez, the lifelong friend of the ex-wife. The nurse is documenting her that she's going to give my brother Danny my necklace, and that just seemed odd, that she did that. And so the question was asked if Rodriguez knew my brother. Okay, so when I got back into my house, when my home that night, she told me, the ex-wife says, we're creating a document trail on you. And Danny said that we'll just take your house. Okay. Now, this wasn't my brother Danny, and I know this because I asked him. He said that he doesn't know anything about the nonstop and horrific crimes being committed against me. He's just not going to help me in any way. Okay. And so I come from a close family. We're 13 months apart. And, actually he texted me on on the Christmas, and said Merry Christmas. But So that's that. I have a recent video on we're creating a document trail on you, because questions asked if these police were creating a document trail to cover up my murder in advance. Okay. I told the police and the ex-wife that I was getting a divorce, but she didn't move out until right before New Year's. And that's what we're talking about, December 30th. And most of her stuff was still here. I packed it up and we loaded it in a truck about a week before the murder attempt when she was moving to Lubbock. I don't think she was here when I was shot, okay? And so that was like a week before. Our stuff's in the garage. We're loading it up. There's a whole story on that. We're out there, and she says something to me like, you're crazy. And I reply back, and I said, I know about the tunnels, and I've already called the DEA. Of course, I didn't know the DEA wasn't going to look, and I was going to be ambushed and shot a week later, right? Because that's what happened. And now we suspect somebody at the DEA set me up to be murdered, right? Obviously. But anyways, she replies right back, and she says, I'm not a part of a prostitution ring. I didn't say anything about prostitution. I said I knew about the tunnels, and I already called the DEA, And so there was other, information, so, come out that day that she told me. And, she tells me about that my dad had an affair with my mom 15 years earlier with a woman named Pat Mason. Almost broke up my family, and I was the only one that didn't know about it, but she knew about it. She told me that my family was on a secret ski vacation, snow skiing, and I wasn't invited, and come to find out that was true. That was like a week before I'm ambushed and shot in my home. But once again, my family said they don't know anything about the crimes against me. Okay. And so anyways, here, I said, I don't believe she was here when I shot. And so what I did, this is the police report, the long withheld police report that I only got in 2019. And I parsed out for Matt Davis, Sergeant Matt Davis. He's the one that quit the police force in 2013. And it's suspected, actually, was a Matthew Davis wrote me on YouTube and said, buddy, I stole the evidence and nobody's going to find out. I've made videos and posted that before. So anyway, here's where it shows he's on the scene, and here this happened and this happened. He's the one that started the information report. He was a sergeant. I think April Chandler would have been reporting to him. He creates these what we call XREFs right here, all within 22 seconds, which like they were pre-planned, like we're creating a document trail on you. So you can look at the timestamps on them. Within 22 seconds, he had 3 of them XREFs, created. And so I've made a video on that called 22 seconds. But one thing I want to point out here, at 11:42, I'm ambushed and shot, crawling out 10:42, right? Tried to contact the ex-wife twice, okay? And so I wondered if Matt Davis knew the ex-wife because he was trying to contact her. And I found that, 7 years after the murder attempt on the police records that he was trying to contact my ex-wife after I'd been ambushed and shot, okay? I think she was in Lubbock. I don't think she was here when I was shot. That's the point I'll make. Okay. I found out that she took my life insurance books when she brought them back a few days after, I believe, landman attorney Matt Hyman was electrocuted in my hallway on January 14th, 2012. Somebody suggested that maybe she brought them back so she didn't have physical possession of them when I happened to die by accident a week later. The life insurance books. I didn't know she'd taken them, and then she brings them back. That's when I found out she had taken them. Okay, and that happened right around the same time as the other guy was shot in the foot on the 17th, and Matt Hyman dies on the 14th. And I wondered if Matt Hyman and his friends were here because I had tear gassed the attic a few days earlier. Okay, and so here this guy's 33 years old. Basically, I got out of the hospital after, surviving this murder attempt, and I'm thinking back, and I'm going, I wonder if anybody died on that day that I put electricity on the doorknob, January 14th, 2012. And I found this guy, and then I find out that he's a landman. I'm like, whoa, because I've already suspected landmen were involved in the oil show parties, the underground oil show parties. And then also find out he become an attorney for Cotton Bledsoe, Ty and Dawson, and they're the city's attorneys, okay? I asked this question on my Facebook, and come to find out, his former sister-in-law, Natalie, was my nurse. She was on my Facebook friends list, and she's the one that says, yeah, it was a surprise heart failure. Nobody knew he had a problem, and I'm like, was he messing with electricity? because it only takes 100 milliamps to stop the heart. You know, that's the thing. The other thing is electricity starts the heart back up. So many times electrocution, if you can call EMS, you can save that person's life. And that's why I believe his friends that were with him in my home that day, that I believe they were, okay, that they chose to let their friend die instead of calling for help. You know, that's what I believe, okay? But then I'm asking her another question. What time of the day did he die? Because if he died in the morning, it wasn't him, you know. How did he die? If he died in a plane crash, it wasn't him, you know. And, well, he happened to die at the exact same time you had electricity on the door, you know. Well, I'm thinking, and there's more to this story, you know. I mean, the only witness to his supposed death was his wife, or his death at his home was his ex-wife, and she marries this guy that threatens me, another landman, okay. And there's a video on that called a motive for murder, Matt Hyman. I've got a video on that. But anyway, the point of this is that's when the life insurance books were brought back to me, you know, right after Matt Hyman dies and right after the other guy gets shot in the foot with you know, in the same foot with a shotgun on the 17th, okay? This was around the time when the other guy was shot in the same foot with a shotgun on January 17th. I found out this from Dr. Hinton when he said he compared my x-rays from 11712. The others had taken on 11912, except I was shot 11 days later on 12812. I suspect x-rays of his foot were used to create the fake ones for me since I was shot with a shotgun. Since I wasn't shot with a shotgun, I misspoke there. And so if anybody comes in here and goes, oh, you said it, oh, he admitted it. Oh, let's throw out all the evidence and you know, he admitted it. That's what I always hear all the time. These idiots trying to cover up capital murders that should be arrested and go to prison for it, you know, because I didn't admit to anything. I wasn't shot with my shotgun. You know, evidence shows that. It doesn't matter what they say. It doesn't matter what I say. That's the facts. What I'm going here is who was shot on the 17th, because Dr. Hinton said that he compared my x-rays from the 17th, others I had on the 19th, when I was shot on the 28th, 11 days later. That's why I believe somebody else was shot on the 17th. And I believe they took that guy's x-rays and then they put my name on them. That's how they created the fake x-rays. I got videos on that. Several of them. One of them, Dr. Glass's wife. I did another recent one. Okay. If my murder was ruled an accident by her lifelong friend, MPD Detective Rosie Rodriguez, then she would get an extra $250,000 plus 2 full years of pay. I said that earlier. My life insurance book showed that I paid for accidental death policy. It was for my loved ones. You know, since it didn't help me. And that's the thing about life insurance, and especially if you're stealing life insurance, you know, the person that's paying for it, me, I don't get anything from it. I'm dead, right? That is for my loved ones, you know, and it's money coming out of my pocket, you know, to pay for it. It come out at the protective order here in 22 months after the murder attempt by surprise when we find out the detective, Midland detective, Rosie Rodriguez, who had been caught tampering with evidence, lying on police reports, was the lifelong friend of the ex-wife. She's the one that ruled this failed murder and accident. The lifelong friend. They went to grade school together. They were asked in court right here. I've known her. We went to school and I guess elementary and junior high together. That's when we found out 2 years later. Ex-wife didn't mention that, you know. And Rosie Rodriguez was the one that met me at the 7-Eleven after I crawled out, you know, and then lied and said she wasn't even there. This was in addition to the 401k and other assets. The big prize was my special paid-for home, which has $1 million 3-bedroom home buried in the backyard, believed to be where the oil show parties were held and where a young girl was murdered at in 2010. It's possible it was set up for an illegal casino and brothel, which would be a huge money maker. Okay, and so here's the Mimi on this, and basically I'm saying everybody can see this. You know, there's a whole list of people documented saying there's underground homes here, okay, and tunnels, you know, and I'm often having to go, Rhonda Denman Rogers said this, I recorded a woman saying this, you know, Layla O'Brien said this, you know, Joe Lozano said this. I've documented all these. But then this one, another woman said, you know, go to Google Maps, maps.google.com, put in your address, 3802 Fair Circle, and look at my backyard, okay, switch between the map view and the satellite view, okay? Or you can drive down the alley. There's a large bunker in my backyard. You can't see it from above ground. And I got one woman recording saying that there's 4 3-bedroom underground homes here. Another woman tells me there's an underground facility half block away. Legda O'Brien said she worked on this project, which was called Safe House Project. It would had a budget of $7.35 million. Finished in 1987. She believed the Bushes were involved in it. The Bushes are from Midland. W.H. Bush was the vice president back there in the 80s, okay? And then I recorded a sheriff candidate. Guy's running for sheriff. And I'm telling him my story on the phone and telling him about these underground homes. And he stops me. He says, buddy, that's where Sheriff Painter used to hide out, or that was the hideout for Sheriff Painter, And he didn't know I was recording, and that is only some of the people, it's just a huge, besides proofs showing that I wasn't shot with my gun. Somebody under my home shot me. The last owner of this home, Mike Lawson, died the week before the 2008 old show started. Neighbor, Marilyn DeLuigi, told me that he died in this house, but his death certificate said he died in Fort Worth. The Odessa American confirmed that he died here on the second and revised death notice, where they changed his location of death. And I didn't make a big point of it, but Angie McGee Hurley told me in 2010 about a young girl murdered at an oil show party, I believe was going on in the underground homes. She was leaving my home and there in 5 minutes. I know that because we was talking on the phone. I tried to get her to report this murder of that girl that didn't want to prostitute that they murdered at that party, and she was afraid and said high-level police were there. I suspect most of them, probably Painter was one of them, and then the secret police are caught in my house. It took six years, $2,000 reward to identify. That makes sense who they were. This here, I'm going, besides this girl being murdered at the 2010 old show party, Mike Lawson, the previous owner of my home, and he's a young man, 27, he dies the week before the 2008 old show started. What do you want to bet that they were fixing to have old show parties in the backyard, and that's why he was killed, he was murdered, okay? And so my neighbor, Marilyn DeLuigi, told me twice Mike died in this house. She also said somebody else died here before him, okay? I Google it, and what I find is the Odessa American posted a death notice saying he died in Fort Worth. That was posted on the 14th, October 14th, 2008. 4 days later, they posted a second death notice and changed the location of death to say he died at his residence. That was here in Midland. That confirmed what Marilyn said. These two conflicting death notices by the Odessa American were found online for 12 years. I tell Sheriff Kreiner and the Texas Rangers about this, send them this screenshot, and all of a sudden, the Odessa American deletes this one. Some people have been asking if that's not tampering with evidence in a capital murder. Okay? Has to be an explanation, right? The divorce was made final after I survived the murder attempt in March 2012. And after court was over that day and I got back home, the ex-wife called me and asked me if I'd changed the beneficiaries over yet. But that was the first thing I had done. Phone records will show this phone call. I wondered if I would have died by accident that day if I hadn't. Okay, so this was in March. This was after I survived the murder attempt. Okay, because of the protective order here, I've never... her name has not come out of my mouth. That's why you always hear me say the ex-wife. And I have multiple ex-wives, And so somebody says ex-wife, what's her name? Which one? And I won't mention her name. I don't. And so... But it is in the Midland Reporter Telegram, right? That was the newspaper at the time, I don't, I'm sure people could look it up if they wanted to, And so what I'm showing is here we're married October 29th, 2011. 91 days later, I'm ambushed and shot. And remember, then we had separated a month before. I told the police and her I wanted it over there on December 20th, the night the police were called, And so, here it is. She's a nurse, basically, and, and then I'm an IT guy, is basically what that says. Okay. 8 months later, the former boyfriend of the ex-wife, Arthur Welch, contacted me on Facebook. I didn't know him. He told me that he believes she had a lot to do with the shooting from the things she had said, and that she threatened to have him killed too. My attorney submitted this as evidence in the protective order here in December 2013, and she admitted under oath that he was her former boyfriend. Okay, and so this is the screenshot of the Facebook conversation that day between me and Arthur Welch, and he's asking me, "Do you think she had anything to do with it?" And, I dated her for a short time here in Lubbock, and she threatened to have me killed. That's what he tells me on October 5th, 2012, and, I was ambushed shot January 28, 2012, and then he goes on. I'm saying, well, I'm pretty sure she was in Lubbock that week and I was shot, and I don't think she was a shooter. I absolutely believe that she knows who did, though. She would have gotten this house $500,000 if I would have died by accident. It was made to look like. Her brother-in-law happened to be the ER doctor at the hospital that night. A lot of questionable things happened then, I said, you're much better off without her in your life, etc. Well, I think she had a lot to do with it from the things she said, and I so never will trust her. This was read in court at the protective order hearing. Remember that protective order hearing? Here she is living 100 miles away in Lubbock, and I hadn't seen her, talk to her in a year and a half, and the whole thing was based over 2 emails sent, non-threatening emails sent in a year and a half. It's an absurdity, okay? But what happened during that court, we're going to see it here in a minute. Her and her lifelong friend, Rosie Rodriguez, get up there, perjure themselves, and call me delusional. Oh, he thinks people in the attic. Yeah, people are in the attic, And not only my house, all across the nation, homeowners are now documenting, reporting people in the attic all over the place. Widespread racketeering and organized crime. A few months ago, Arthur tagged me on a Facebook post when he wrote, cops were recorded hiding evidence and laughing about this man being shot. I was dating this guy's ex-wife when I overheard her talking. And from the things I heard, she had tried to have him killed for insurance money. And to hear how many police were involved, one, her long-time personal friend. Her final words to me was, I will have you shot too. His story hasn't changed in 8 years. That's my comment. His story has not changed. This is a print screen from what Arthur posted in June of this year. Okay, he first contacted me in October of 2012. His story has never changed about the ex-wife, right? Okay. I have no proof that the ex-wife was involved in the murder attempt, and she seemed upset about me being shot. She was the one that had told me the secret is that a group of doctors are killing people for profit. I would have never known her brother-in-law was my ER doctor on the night that I was shot if it wasn't for her telling me that. And she gave me clues that my medical records were falsified, which I now know to be true. Okay. And so, when she told me there was a group of doctors killing people for profit, she didn't tell me at that time that her brother-in-law was a doctor. But after I was shot, she come by my house and she seemed upset about it. And she's the one, that's my brother-in-law right there, on the medical records, because we were going over the medical records together. And she's a nurse, right? Because she knows how to read them. And here I testified at the protective order hearing, 318th Judicial District Court. There's the cause number, the date. I said, the secret is a group of doctors killing people for profit. That's what she told me. I said, well, that entire time we was married, that her brother-in-law was a doctor, okay? And then come to find out, he was my doctor on the night that I'm shot, and that's when it's proven them x-rays were faked, okay? Another little side story, I was researching the deed history of my home because obviously somebody used to live in this home or in this small cul-de-sac of 9 homes knows something about tunnels and $1 million underground homes, And so I'm trying to find out who owned it and all that. And I went back to the builders, Tabor Construction in the 80s, okay? And I noticed they had a bit listed address of 3217 Mark Lane. So I go look it up on midcad.org, the Midland County Appraisal District, to look up the deed history for that home, that the builder of my home, Tabor Construction, and to my surprise, I see that the brother-in-law, the doctor I didn't know about, the guy that was there when the x-rays were faked on the night I was shot, he used to own the same home as the builders of my home and the other homes in this cul-de-sac. So the question's been asked if that doctor, knew about these underground homes here when I was shot, which would mean he knew the truth, right? When I was up there at the hospital, she did admit on a recording to trying to extort money from me 4 months before the murder attempt, when she told me that if I didn't pay for her an apartment, she was going to tell everybody that I was crazy. That extortion threat was carried out in December 2013 when her lifelong friend, MPD Detective Rosie Rodriguez, stated that I was delusional during the protective order hearing. I wondered if she was being blackmailed. Okay, so I sure don't think she's 100% innocent. I'm not saying that. This is the transcript from the recording, and we're going to listen to it here in a second, and basically you're going to hear me saying, where I'm repeating what she told me. You're going to pay me $1,800 or $1,200 a month. I'm going to tell a lie about everything I've seen and tell everybody you're crazy. And she says, I made a mistake. You know, she didn't deny it. You know, she just said it was a mistake to try to extort. You know, it was a $1,800 a month for life mistake is what it was. You know, and I said, you're the only one that gonna make money off the house. I made a mistake. Once again, she didn't deny it. You know, and then. So here, that was on 9/21/11. I'm ambushed and shot, you know, on January 28, 2012. Okay, and then here in the protective order here, and this is the transcript right here, and it's first Rosie Rodriguez here. Under oath, did Mr. Webb certainly had been injured, but didn't Mr. Webb seem delusional at the time? That's how I described him. Okay, so here she perjured herself in court, the lifelong friend, the grade school buddy of the ex-wife, Rosie Rodriguez, right? That was being caught tampering with the evidence, lying on police reports, etc. And then here's the ex-wife. Okay, remember that, and keep in mind that she on a recording had already admitted to felony extortion and said, "I'll tell everybody you're crazy, you know, if you don't pay me the money," you know. And then so Miss Jewett, the assistant district attorney, says, "Why did you separate from Mr. Webb?" "I felt like my life was in jeopardy." And why is that? He's very delusional, and he believes that I was a part of the conspiracy against him. Okay, remember right there? She's going to tell everybody I'm crazy if I didn't pay the money. I didn't pay the money. And she carried out the extortion threat. That's what happened, you know. And then we're going to listen to it. That's the last thing we want to do here.
You're the one that's gonna make money. See, I can never figure out why would this all happen, and then all of a sudden, wow, who the hell is gonna follow the cash? Who's gonna make money off this house being broken in? And how in the world can you know and say that somebody's coming across the attic and breaking in the house and turn around and go, here's what you're gonna do. You're gonna pay me $1,800 or $1,200 a month. Or I'm going to lie about everything that I've seen and tell everybody you're crazy. You're the only one that was going to make money off the house. Does that tie you back into the people breaking in the house?
No.
Conspiracy?
Absolutely not.
Huh?
Absolutely not. In your mind, yes. Obviously it does. In your mind, obviously.
Okay, so anyway, so you know that is to make a point. That recording was not heard in court, and you know I want to make a point of that. I'm going to end this out. I do a scripture every day, and here's the scripture I did today. I think it's I'm a Christian, and I know God saved my life. I think anybody who looks at this, you know, some very powerful and smart criminals planned in advance to try to murder me, and they have all the resources in the world, $1 million underground homes. They'd stop free press in America, murder one home after another. They got a dozen secret police, doctors that fake in x-rays. I mean, you know, and I'm still alive, and I'm still talking about it. This scripture here today is, he that covers his sin shall not prosper, but whoso confesses and forsakes them shall find mercy. Okay. God bless y'all. Happy New Year, and we'll see you next year.